Hi, I'm Lorenzo Lisi, and I'm the leader of the Workplace Law Group at Berlis. Today's topic on Ask the Expert is the impact of 2020 on human resources and how to manage through difficult times. As everyone catches their breath from the year that was 2020 and the emergence from the pandemic in 2021, there's been a significant and lasting change on the role of human resources organizationally. The pandemic forced companies to transition to a remote work model. In-person teamwork shifted to online collaboration methods. Working from home became a reality, and managing from afar a practice for human resource professionals. As someone close to HR professionals every day, I've observed the impact up close and personal. The pandemic and the social upheavals of 2020 and 2021 with respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion have fundamentally changed the role of human resources forever. Here are some of the notable shifts in HR which I've noticed since early 2020. The list is not exhaustive, but will resonate with many HR professionals who are watching this video. The first is the heightened importance of workplace health and safety. Given the nature of the pandemic, HR was tasked with ensuring the safety of its employees. Early on, it manifested as policies and procedures for a return to work, which, in the absence of vaccinations, included social distancing, PPE, as well as monitoring to ensure compliance with governmental regulations. Employees at that time, if you recall back in early 2020, were overloaded. They heard what was safe, what was unsafe, what they thought the problems were. You could get it by touching something, you could get it by breathing something in. So all of the questions that came back were to human resources. They were forced to respond and react. HR became the go-to for all employees and for the organization in terms of communicating the way forward. And as we move through the vaccination period, HR professionals have again become the go-to source for information and how to manage both the repatriation of employees and how we move forward with the modern workplace. Staying in tune with regulations and public health, but also managing and encouraging vaccinations while dealing with requests for mandatory policies are what we're now dealing with on a day-to-day basis. A cautious but firm approach is what I'm seeing. HR has to work with leadership to establish policies about returning to work, workplace vaccines, and other health-related issues. The priority is to keep employees safe while recognizing the obligation of the organization to continue to work and move forward from an organizational perspective. The communication of these policies, ensuring that employees have notice of what you're going to do next, and managing that employee reaction has become part of what HR professionals do on a day-to-day basis. My one piece of advice, and what I've seen good HR professionals do, take the time that is required. The pressures are immense, particularly from the top down, to get things done. But stop, breathe, think, and go forward in a measured and consistent way. Employees are part of the process. Include them, take their feedback, and understand what the concerns are, mesh that with the organizational needs, come up with the policies accordingly. The second point I want to raise is time off and the new normal. So complying with federal and local government leave guidelines has become a top priority for HR professionals during the pandemic. Organizations either revised existing time and attendance policies or made temporary adjustments to meet requirements. This may have highlighted the need for more flexible policies concerning working at home. That also required a coordinated effort with IT to ensure that all IT policies were being maintained, confidentiality and critical non-disclosure of document policies were implemented, and also to ensure that hardware, workplace at home policies, how an employee would be managed on a return to work if that was required, were all put in place. For example, is the organization going to repatriate its workers to the office, or will there be a mix of office at home and work policies? Is the organization in a position to address requests for accommodation and the inevitable pushback for employees who wish to stay at home? What about employees who don't want to come home, even though there may be daycare or schooling available for their children, but wish or make priorities different now that they have had the opportunity to work at home for an extended period of time? All of those have to be integrated, right, into an approach by HR to review, assess, and feedback the position of the organization and its accommodation requests that may be received throughout. Another point is, how will the organization deal with burnout, the need for time off? Many employees will, from a mental health perspective, need time off. Even if they've taken time off, we are starting to see feedback from employees who are saying, look, I really wasn't away. There was nowhere to go. I was working, or I was still at home and I really don't feel I had a break. So how are HR professionals going to deal with the inevitable requests for time off, for burnout, for short-term disability or days off, or for sick leave? The policies have to be consistent. There has to be an intake of all requests, and they have to, as I've mentioned previously, be managed in accordance with both human rights considerations and operational requirements of the business. So be sensitive to the human issues. Understand that in bringing workers back, there are going to be bumps in the road. Don't prejudge, deal with them all as an individual basis. Document everything and be in a position to respond quickly, decisively, but also to encourage continued feedback and to work with the individual employee to address any problems they may have. That's going to be critical going forward. And the final topic I want to discuss is diversity and inclusion initiatives. So organizations since 2020 really have and will continue to be expected to participate in the push for greater diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion, and in a real way, not a surface way. HR is an important piece of the puzzle in creating an environment that supports, reinforces, and prioritizes diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, even if it includes managing a remote workplace. So here are some steps to consider. Broaden the recruitment process to include employees from a variety of backgrounds, cultures, and locations. That step itself will help in both the recruitment and the retention goals of the organization. Educate across the organization with buy-in from the top down. Offer training to educate employees about how diversity, equity, and inclusion impacts the organization and how to view initiatives in a positive and constructive way. Open up discussion, right? It's important that organizations recognize the need that there are going to be employees who want to have these discussions. Eliminating them, shying away from them, or engaging in them in a manner which is not consistent with the goals and values of the organization is not the way to go. As we move forward, we're going to see a greater need and a greater requirement to open up and have these discussions and not to close them down. So having venues, having processes in place where employees can engage in these discussions and having real significant buy-in from the management of the company is very critical. Create and reinforce diversity policies in a way which fosters inclusion and accountability. This should include conflict management systems and a robust investigation process which creates trust amongst the employees. Without that trust, employees will simply not say anything, and in many cases, you may lose good people as a result of your inability to kind of reach them or contact them in a very real manner on diversity, equity, and inclusion matters. So from an HR perspective, 2020 and even in 2021 have been a period like no other in the history of HR management. I've never seen anything like it, and I've been around a while. For example, I get a call almost every day about the requirement to impose mandatory vaccinations. HR professionals are the ones who are on the front line in dealing with this request, usually from the organization, and have to manage it from a legal, HR, and human perspective. And while all of this has created challenges, it really has unearthed tremendous opportunities for HR moving forward. How HR adapts and responds will be critical to an organization's survival. Looking ahead with fresh eyes and lessons learned may in fact change the nature of work forever. HR is at the forefront of that change. Having a department which addresses these HR changes in a positive, proactive way will be a sign for all of the organization and for employees and for the general public looking in that you're a forward-thinking organization that is looking to move forward. Thank you.